Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching 90 Day Fiancé. Let's get to it.
When I was a kid, I don't understand what bisexual is. But I like both girl and man. But in the Philippines, I need to hide myself being bisexual because one of my sister is bisexual too. And my parents, they are very angry.
Okay, so that's interesting. She's saying that one of her sisters was also bisexual and that her sister was out as a bisexual person and that the parents were very angry and there was a lot of turmoil around that. And so Hazel learned from experience that she had to keep it quiet. Now, I want to be clear, as I've been saying from the beginning, she is not only bisexual, but she is also polyamorous, and so is he. They are both polyamorous people, and she is bisexual. If you are bisexual, you can be a lot of other things, by the way. One of the other things that you can be is whether you are polyamorous or monogamous. You're non-monogamous, you're oriented towards non-monogamy, or you're oriented towards monogamy. I think we all understand that. I just want to repeat that over and over again in case you didn't catch those previous times when I said that. She is bisexual, meaning, and she just described it, she is attracted to both men and women, either sexually and or romantically or both. And she also wants to have multiple loves. That's what polyamory means, multiple amory, love. So she wants to have non-monogamy. There are people who are very oriented towards monogamy, like myself. I'm very oriented towards monogamy. And there are other people that are very oriented towards polyamory, which means that they love to be in love, they love to have relationships with people, but they don't want to be limited to just one person. And that's okay. And there are a lot of people like that. And when you find other polyamorous people or people who don't mind being in a relationship with a polyamorous person, then it all works out. And it's actually pretty interesting that both Tarik and Hazel are both polyamorous people. It's interesting that they just randomly found each other, and that's great. And so they're looking on a website for other polyamorous people. Now, what are they looking for? Are they looking for the situation that they had with Minty? Minty seemed like a full-on romantic relationship with both of them. So let's watch.
They say it is not acceptable. So now that I'm here in America, I'm more comfortable being who I am.
And I'm so happy for Hazel that she is able to be who she is. That's just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Now, it's not like in the States she's not going to experience oppression and maybe even hate crimes, but sounds like she is in a more comfortable place.
A hot girl for me is brown girl and not bad breath because I like kissing. Also,
I'm pretty sure dating apps don't have a button for bad breath or not. But it's good to know your preferences for sure.
What's going to be the rules?
Rules?
Rules, meaning when we find somebody, do you want it to be where you and her have time alone? Sometimes all three of us have.
Excellent. I've been saying this from the beginning, that when you enter into a polyamorous relationship, you are entering into a relationship in which you are going to talk about rules. Because there's so much variability. And I'm so happy that Tarik is doing this. He is like, okay, we're dating. What's happening here? What's the setup? Are we talking about a relationship that's just for you? Are we talking about a relationship that's for both of us? Are we talking about you're going to be alone with this person, or I'm going to be alone with this person, or we're never going to be alone, we're always going to be together? What are the rules? That is fantastic. Polyamory requires a lot of discussion like that because it can go in so many different directions.
Have to be together at all times.
What is your plan?
What my plan is what you like, I'm going to follow. But I have one rule. No matter how far it goes, I just can't have a girlfriend around Ari. It would have to be like, the time when Ari is with her mom.
Of course.
Okay, so he has his rules as well. And I would love it if Hazel were able to explore that herself. And maybe she doesn't even really know the answer to that because she's never been able to explore that in her life. And so maybe she's like, I don't really know what I'm looking for. and maybe they'll figure that out as they go. But I'm really going to commend Tarik for actually bringing up this topic of let's talk about this before we get there. Some people, when they head into polyamory, will not have this conversation, and then they get hurt because they have a vision in their mind of what it's going to look like, and then the other person has a different vision, and things happen, and then they get hurt. Another thing you have to have a lot of conversations about is like, how are we going to talk about our feelings when feelings happen? If I get jealous, how are we going to talk about that? That sort of thing. But good job for Tarik. That's great.
Ari is not going to ever see this, be a part of it, hear about it, anything. She's going to be totally shut off and sheltered from this, or it's not happening.
And that's fine. I will say that I've worked with many polyamorous families in which there are children, and children adjust. Children are fine with it, usually. The same rules apply to raising children in polyamorous families as they do in monogamous families, meaning that as a parent, you need to be attuned to your child. You don't expose your children to things that they shouldn't be exposed to. You know, most people in monogamous relationships agree that they shouldn't expose their children to their sex life. Now, there's some variability there depending on the culture and depending on the belief system. But anyway, most mainstream American families, anyway, they don't expose their children to their sex life because sometimes harm can happen, abuse can happen. Children observing things that are not things they should observe at that age can actually be abusive to the child. It depends. There's a lot of nuance there, but most parents would agree. Okay, polyamorous families, same. They will say, well, you know, there's this assumption that somehow if you're having sex all over the place with all these random people, that's how outsiders will see polyamorous families. Then there's this assumption that having children involved somehow will damage the child. Well, polyamorous parents run the gamut as well, just the same as monogamous parents. Monogamous parents can be great and very buttoned up and know how to approach things with their children. And we have monogamous parents who don't know how to approach things with their children, don't know how to protect their children from sexual things that they shouldn't be exposed to. Same with polyamorous families. Some polyamorous families are great, most are great, and some are not so great. So Tarik is saying he doesn't want Ari to be exposed to this, and I don't know exactly what he's precisely worried about. Is he worried about the sexual aspect? Is he worried about the chaos? Because another thing is, say you're a monogamous person and you're single and you're starting to date, it's not uncommon to not introduce your dating life to your child because it's too chaotic. People are maybe coming and going. You know, you're dating someone 1 month and the next month you're dating someone else, and you just don't want to expose your child to that kind of chaos and that people kind of revolving door of a dating life. So maybe that's what Tarik is talking about. I don't know. Now, there's nothing wrong with Tarik's boundary. He can absolutely have that. But I'm just saying that it's okay if you do it right, in the same way it's okay if you do it right in a monogamous family, to have children in a polyamorous family. And I would talk with these kids, and I would, teenagers, and I'd just be like, so what's it like? What's it like to have polyamorous parents? What's it like to have, 3 fathers and 1 mother in the house? And they'll just be like, people ask me that all the time at school, and it's really no different than any other relationship, than any other family. Every house, all the teenagers are trying to get freedoms, and they think their parents are dorks. And with me, it's the same way. I just happen to have 4 parents that I think are dorks, and I'm trying to get freedoms from, and I'm trying to get the keys to the car. It becomes very mundane. It all becomes the same. So, anyway, let's continue watching.
All right. Anyway, once we find the girl, we have to be careful because jealousy is a huge thing with this. You're going to have to make sure that you're really ready for this because this is what you want.
This is great too. He's bringing up a lot of really wonderful topics. Now, what I'm not encouraged by is that Hazel isn't saying much of anything. I don't know if she's afraid. I don't know if she's confused. I don't know if it's a language barrier. But I love that Tarik is bringing this stuff up, and I really hope that Hazel can think about it and dig down deep, explore it, talk about it, and the two of them can do it as they go, make some prearrangements. But I'm worried that Hazel is just going to shut down, or maybe she doesn't know how to answer the questions. Maybe she's embarrassed. I don't know. Let's see what she says.
I really hope we can find a perfect girl that we both agree on. Having a girlfriend is always what I wanted, but my relationship with Tarik is more important. So I just hope it feels different than the last time.
Okay, so that's great. Hazel clearly has thought about it and understands what she wants, and that's pretty common, is they'll say, okay, Tarik is my primary. That's a word that polyamorous people often use. Tarik is my primary, and my other relationships are secondary. My secondary relationships are very important to me. I'm very much in love with this person, or I very much want to be with my secondary for the rest of my life. But if push comes to shove, I'm going to stick with my primary. My primary gets priority. And so she is identifying that, apparently. She's saying, I don't want to lose Tarik. He's very important to me. And that's wonderful to hear, honestly, as a viewer, because I'm always wondering, how does she feel? What does she want? So that was a good stabilizing statement for me, for her, to hear her say that. But she's also saying, I want to fall in love with a woman. I also want a relationship with a woman. I want to have a full-on sexual and romantic, and she even said the word sisters, best friends with a woman as well. And so they seem to know what they want, and they're on the right track, and that's just great.
With Menti.
Okay, so here we go. Do you want to submit this? Do you want to hit enter, and then our profile is in? All right, so let's do it. Bang. All right, come to mama and come to papa.
And I will say that couples can really bond over this experience. They're both essentially dating together. They're both essentially shopping around together. They're online dating together, and that can be very bonding for the two of them. So, and they seem to be approaching it that way, which is just fantastic. I never thought that I would watch this TV show and get a chance to see a good example of the beginning of a polyamorous relationship. Hopefully, we'll find that they actually do meet someone, and we can see how they negotiate that and how wonderful it can be. Hopefully, it turns out okay to represent polyamorous couples well. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.